Hi everyone, welcome back to my class. Students, in the previous class, you all have learned about the reflex action. You all have understood that how you are able to quickly respond to the dangerous situations, which are the neurons involved in this reflex arc. All those interesting topics you all have understood, right? So in this session, now let us move towards to understand another concept from the lesson control and the coordination. Till now, you all have understood about the animals, right? You all have understood about how the coordination is being taking place in the animals. Now, let us have a look towards plants. That means we are going to understand the coordination in the plants. Okay, so in this session, I'm going to teach you how the plants coordinate, how the plant shows response towards the stimulus. So those things we are going to understand in this session. Are you all ready? Okay, so now, when I talk about the coordination in the plants, firstly, let us start discussing about the plant movements. So when I say plant movements, do plants move from one place to another place? Now I am moving my body parts, I'm coming forward, I'm going backward, I'm doing a lot of activities. I am moving from one place to another. Correct? Do plants move like that? No, right? Obviously, you all know that the plants do not move from one place to another place. Then what kind of plant movements we are going to study? Yes, so the plants, it move or it grow towards one particular direction. So that we call it as the growth or the movement of plant towards one particular direction. We call it as the plant movements. For example, if the plants are moving towards the sunlight, that is also one kind of movement. If the plants are moving towards the water, that is also one kind of movement. So such type of movements we are going to study in this session. Okay, so we are going to study about the plant movements. So the plant movements are broadly classified into two categories. The plant movements are broadly classified into two categories. The first one is the tropic movements. The first category is the tropic movement and the second category is the nastic movement. The first one is the tropic movement and the second one is the nastic movement. So then, what is meant by tropic movement? See students, tropic movement can also be called as the directional movement because the plants shows their movement in one particular direction. So such type of movements, we call it as the tropic movement. Plant shows the directional growth towards one particular direction. Okay, so then how can we define the tropic movements? See, tropic movements are, as I told you, that they are the directional movement of a part of a plant. Means one particular part of the plant is showing the movement towards one particular direction. For example, roots. Roots are showing the movement towards the soil. They are showing the movement towards the water. Correct. When I talk about the stem show the direction towards the sunlight. So these are the parts of the plant where it is showing the, what is that? One particular directional movement towards the water or sunlight or whatever it may be. So this is what we call it as the tropic movement. How can we define? Tropic movement is a movement of a plant. It shows the directional movement. The plant shows the directional movement. What kind of directional movement? The part of the plant, it is showing the directional movement towards the water or the soil or the sunlight or the chemicals and so on. We are going to study the different tropic movements under the tropic movements. I hope you all have understood what is a tropic movement. Clear? Correct? So now, let us understand the nastic movement. See, when I say nastic movements, here the plants are not showing any kind of directional growth. They are not showing any kind of directional growth. They are the independent on growth. See, these are tropic movements are the dependent on growth. The plants are depending on the growth. Whereas the nastic movements, the plants are independent on the growth. They have non-directional, okay? They are independent and they are the non-directional growth towards the stimulus, okay? So, for example, for the nastic movements, I can give an example of Mimosa pudica, right? You all know about Mimosa pudica, which we call it as touch me not plant, right? So, this Mimosa pudica, it does not show any kind of directional movement, okay? So, then what kind of stimulus it shows? See, when we touch the leaves of the mimosa pudica, that is touch me not plant, obviously you all have observed that the leaves of the mimosa pudica will just droop. It will fold its leaves, right? The leaves of the mimosa pudica, it folds. Correct. So that movement we call it as the nastic movement. We call it as the nastic movement. Understand? So when I talk about the nastic movement, they are the what kind of movement? They are the non-directional movement of the plant. They are independent on the growth. Okay? So we call it as the nastic movement. Clear? What kind of the movements we are going to understand about the plant under the plant movements? One is the tropic movement and one more is the nastic movement. Under tropic movement, we have learned that the plants are growing towards one particular direction. The part of the plant is growing towards one particular direction. They are dependent on the growth. They are directional growth. Okay? Clear? Fine. Moving to next. See, these tropic movements, they are showing two types of movement. One is positive movement and one more is the negative movement. So positive movement we call it as positive tropism. Negative movement we call it as the negative tropism. Okay, so how does a plant show the positive movement or the positive tropism? For example, see, if the roots of the plants are growing towards the ground, then the roots of the plants are growing towards the gravity. It is growing towards the water. So when I talk about the water, why do the roots grow towards the water? You all know, right? The roots, it absorbs the water for the development of the plant. So now the roots are considered as the positive tropism towards the water because it is focusing its roots towards the water. What about the stem here? Do stem grow towards the water? No, right? Now the stem can be considered, it is showing as negative hydrotropism. That is it is showing the negativeness towards the water. When I say hydrotropism, I'll discuss about the hydrotropism as I go ahead for the next slide. See, now you have to understand, what you have to understand is what is meant by positiveness, what is meant by negativeness. If the plants are showing some kind of stimulus, what is meant by stimulus? It is showing some kind of changes in the environment. Stimulus means the changes shown in the environment. So such kind of movement, we call it as the positive tropic movement. What do we call it as? We call it as positive tropic movement. Are you feeling heavy? No, right? You all have to understand because this concept is very new for you. Okay, once again, I'll tell you what is meant by positive tropism. See, as I told you, why I'm giving a simple example, because you know that the roots are growing towards the soil because to absorb the water, correct? So when it is growing towards the water, the roots are showing the positiveness, positive growth towards the water. So then it is showing stimulus towards the water. Okay, as it is showing the stimulus towards the water, it is showing the positivity towards the water. Hence, I can consider that the root is showing the positive tropism towards the water. Then which part of the plant is showing the negative stimulus now towards the water? Stem. Obviously, because it is growing above the ground. Stem is growing above the ground, correct? So that is the reason the stem is showing the negative tropism towards or with respect to the water. But with respect to sunlight, when you talk about sunlight, which part of the plant is showing the, positive movement towards the sunlight? Stem. Whereas the roots are showing the negative tropism towards the sunlight. Clear? I hope you all got an idea. So now I will teach you which are the different type of tropic movements which we can see in the plants. Okay. So we are going to understand about the different tropic movements which we can see in the plants. Okay. Okay. As I told you that the plant shows some stimulus. Based on the stimulus which has been shown by the plants move towards one particular direction. We call such directional movement as the tropic movements. Correct? We understood that. So now we will understand the types of tropic movements which are being shown by the plants based on its stimulus. Okay? So here are some types of tropic movement which are being shown by the plants based on its stimulus. Okay? Let's have a look towards that. The first one is the phototropism. So what is meant by phototropism? Photo means light. Correct? You know that. Photo means light. Tropism means movement. So here the plants are showing their movement towards the sunlight. Very simple to understand, right? See, photo means light, tropism means movement. So the plants are showing their movement or response towards the sunlight. They're growing towards the sunlight. Hence we call such type of tropic movement as the phototropic movement or phototropism. Okay, so later I will tell you what is the positive photo or negative phototropic movements. First, let us understand the tropic movements. Okay, you all are clear with phototropic movement, right? Or phototropism. So the plants are focusing or growing towards the sunlight. We call it as phototropism. Clear? So moving to the next one, that is the hydrotropism. What is meant by hydro? Hydro means it is water. Again, the tropism is movement. The plants, they grow towards the water. When the plants, when they are going towards the water, we call such type of movement of the plant as the hydrotropism. Movement of the plant in response to water. Movement of the plant in response towards the water, we call it as the hydrotropism. Clear? So moving to the next one, chemotropism. What is mean by chemo? Chemo means chemical. Chemo means chemical. Again, tropism means movement. The plants are showing some response towards the chemicals. Plants, it shows some response or grow towards the chemicals. We call it as the chemotropism. Clear? Okay, moving to the next, geotropism. Geo means earth. Earth means gravity. Here, the plant which show their growth or response towards the gravity, we call such type of tropic movements as the geotropic movements. We call it as geotropism. Geo means gravity. Tropism means movement. Clear? So, the plant which shows the response towards the gravity, we call it as geotropic movement of the plant or geotropism. Clear? So, moving to the next one and the last tropic movement, that is the thigmotropism. When I say thigmo, it is the touch. Thigmo means it is the touch. Okay. So, the plant shows some kind of response towards the touch or it grows with the support of something. Then, such kind of tropic movements are called as the thigmotropic movements. For example, money plant, correct, grapevine, they all need some support, right? With the help of some support, when they come in contact with some touch of some kind of wall or something, they show their movement. Such type of movement, we call it as the thigmotropic movement. Students, what is that I am teaching now, the tropic movements. All these tropic movements are very important with respect to your examination point of view. Because in your examination, they will ask tropic movements or they will ask, so they will give some statements and they will ask whether it is showing the positive phototropism or the negative phototropism. So you have to concentrate and understand the entire concept of tropic movements. Clear with this, right? You all got a clear idea what is phototropism, light. Plants showing some response towards the light is called as phototropism. Plants which is showing some response towards the water, we call it as hydrotropism. Plants which are showing some response towards the chemicals, it is called as the chemotropism. Plants which are showing some response towards the gravity, we call it as geotropism. And the plant which is showing some response towards the touch, we call it as thigmotropism. Clear, right? No doubt at all about the different type of tropic movements. Now let us understand few examples that how the plants are showing the positive tropism as well as the negative tropism. We have understood, right? In the previous slide, I have told you that the tropic movements will be two types. One is the positive tropism and another one is the negative tropism. Let's understand with some example how the plants are showing the different type of tropisms. Okay. So when I talk about the phototropism, the plants, for example, see, if a plant is placed in a darker room, consider it as a room, okay, if the plant is kept in the dark room, okay, it is growing if it is kept in the darker room where there is no sunlight, okay. Now, let us allow some sunlight to enter into this room. Let us make some space. Okay, and let us allow some sunlight. So, I am allowing the sunlight now. to enter into the room. So now, what does the plant do? The plant bends towards the sunlight. The plant starts to grow or show its movement by growing in this region. It is bending towards the sunlight. Why the plant is bending towards the sunlight? Because the plants need sunlight. Correct? The plants, it need the sunlight for their photosynthesis. Correct? So to perform photosynthesis, the plants bend or show its movement towards the sunlight, and this kind of movement which is shown by the plant, we call it as the positive phototropism. What do we call it as? We call it as positive phototropism. Clear? If the plant is bending towards, it is bending towards the sunlight, then the plant is showing the positive phototropism. It is showing the positive phototropism. What about the roots? Do roots also grow towards this region? No, right? However, the roots are placed, the roots will be growing away from the sunlight. Correct? The roots are growing away. It is growing far away from the sunlight. Then the roots are considered to show the negative phototropism. The root shows the negative phototropism. Clear? You all got an idea what is positive and what is negative. When I talk about phototropism, if the plants are focusing towards the sunlight, if they are showing the stimulus towards the sunlight, then the plants are showing the positive phototropism. Clear? Okay. So now if the plants, then can we imagine the roots are also focusing towards the sunlight? No, right? The roots cannot focus towards the sunlight. The roots always grow away from the sunlight. Hence, we can call the roots as negative phototropism because the roots cannot show their movement towards the sunlight. They always grow away from the sunlight. Correct? So, hence, the roots are showing the negative phototropism. Clear with positive phototropism? What is negative phototropism? Okay, so now let us move to move towards next, that is the hydrotropism. Let us understand now about the positive hydrotropism and the negative hydrotropism. So again, I will write the diagram of the plant. Okay, I just write roughly the diagram of the plant. Okay, don't think that everything will be in the green. It will be in different color. As we do not have some different color pens, I am using the green color pen to write everything. Okay, so now hydrotropism. You all know what is hydrotropism. Then what is positive hydrotropism? Which part of the plant is showing the positive hydrotropism? Correct, you all got an idea now. Before telling the answer, you all got an idea. Which part of the plant is showing the positive hydrotropism? Obviously, it is root. Correct, because the roots are growing towards the water. Because the roots, it absorbs the water for the development of the plant. Correct? The root, it absorbs the water for the development of the plant. Hence, the roots are showing the positive tropism. That is positive hydrotropism. Clear? Then which part of the plant is showing now the negative hydrotropism? You got an idea? Correct? Yes. The stem is showing the negative hydrotropism. Roots showing positive, stem is showing the negative hydrotropism because the stem does not grow towards the water. It does not absorb the water. Correct? The root absorbs the water. Stem will grow above the ground. Stem is growing above the ground. So the stem is showing the negative hydrotropism. Clear? No doubt, right? Okay. So you have understood what is positive hydrotropism as well as the negative hydrotropism. Positive means the roots are showing the what? Positive growth towards the water. Stem is growing above the ground, so it is showing the negative hydrotropism. Clear? So now let us move towards the next one, that is the chemotropism. So where can we observe the chemotropism? Where can we observe chemotropism? See, chemotropism is probably, it is mostly observed during the fertilization time. So what happens during fertilization? You know, right? The male part of the flower come in contact with, it come close towards the female part. That is, male part is the stamen. Female part is the pistil, you know. Correct. And the male part contain the anther. Anther, what do anther contain? Anther contain the pollen grains. So the pollen grains come in contact. So how does the pollen, the male part of the flower look like? I just write here, see. If this is the male part of the flower, if it contains the anther, what happens? It comes in contact with the female. So where there is presence of ovules here, there is presence of ovules. Got an idea? So now what happened? The anthers, that is the pollen grains in the anther, they come in contact. This is male and this is a female. When they come in contact with the female, what happens? The female part of the flower, it receives the anther, and this anther, the pollen grains. What is anther in the sense? The pollen grains present in the anther, it reaches the female part, which is called as the ovule. Correct? Now what happened? As it reaches to the ovule, there will be some kind of chemical reaction takes place that leads to the fertilization. Correct? So we call such type of movements as the positive chemotropism. The plants are responding towards the chemicals. Correct? The plants are responding towards the chemicals. Are you feeling heavy? No, right? So the plants are feeling the plants are showing the response towards the chemicals. We call it as the chemotropism. Then which part of the plant is showing the negative chemotropism? This is positive. You have understood. Which part of the plant is showing the negative chemotropism? See, suppose take an example of roots of the trees or the plants. If there is more concentration of chemicals, if there is more concentration of chemicals in the soil, if there is more chemicals in the soil, the roots of the soil, the roots of the plant or the roots of the trees, the roots of the plants or roots of the trees get damaged. Their roots get damaged. As the roots are getting damaged, what happens? They start to grow away from that region because they could recognize the damage which is happening inside. Okay, so hence what happened? The roots of the plants or roots of the tree, they grow away. They grow away from that particular region where the chemicals are more in concentration. Clear? So such type of movement, we call it as negative chemotropic movement. Understood? We call it as negative chemotropic movement. If the plants are growing towards the chemicals, it is called as positive chemotropism. If the plants are growing away from the chemicals, we call it as negative chemotropism. Clear, right? So whenever they give you in the examination, you have to just imagine whether the plants are showing the stimulus towards that or not. Then you have to identify whether it is a positive or the negative. That's all. Very simple. Okay. Fine. Now let us move towards the next one. So that is geotropism. When I say geo, when I say gravity, which part of the plant is growing towards the gravity? Got an idea? Got the answer? Yes, of course, it is correct. So you all are very clever, right? Fine. See, roots. Roots grow towards the ground. Roots, it grow towards the ground. As the roots are growing towards the ground, the roots are showing the positive growth towards the gravity. The roots are showing the positiveness towards the soil, towards the ground, towards the gravity. Hence, roots are considered to be the positive geotropism. Roots are example for the positive geotropism because the roots are growing towards the gravity. Clear? The roots are growing towards the gravity. Hence, root shows the positive geotropism. Now, which is the example for the negative geotropism? You all got an idea, right? Because it is very simple to understand. See, as the stems are growing above the ground, the stem shows the negative geotropism. The stems, it shows the negative geotropism because it is growing away. It is growing away from the gravity, that is from the ground. It is growing above the ground, correct? The roots are growing above the ground, hence it is showing the negative What kind of movement? Geotropic movement. Clear? No doubt, right? Okay. So now let me move towards the last type of tropic movement, that is the thigmotropism. When I say thigmo, I told you that the plants it is growing when it come in contact or when it gets support. I told you the examples like grapevine or the money plant. These are all the plants, they need support for their development, support for their growth. Correct? So if the plants, if they are growing, when it come in contact with some touch, then the plants are showing the what kind of movement? Positive thigmotropism. They are showing the positive thigmotropism. If the plants are not, if even the plants, when they come in contact with some support, what happens? If they are not growing towards the support which they got, then those plants are showing the negative thigmotropism. It's very simple. If the plants are showing the response towards the support, then it is showing the positiveness, and if it is away, it is not growing towards the support which they got, then they are showing the negative thigmotropism. Don't worry much about thigmotropism. Very simple sentences, remember. So in your examination, you can write these simple points. They will give you the full marks. Okay, let us recall now once again whatever I have told you about the tropic movements. So we have learnt about first of all, we have learnt about the plant movements, correct? We are talking about the coordination in the plants. So we have learnt about the plant movements. Under plant movements, what do we learn? We have learnt about the, two type of movements, that is the tropic movements and the nastic movements, correct? You all have understood, right? Tropic movements means that the movement which is making the plants to grow towards the stimulus. They are the directional movement of the plant. Okay, one particular part of the plant is growing or showing the directional movement towards one particular region under the tropic movements. And under tropic movements, we have learnt about positive and the negative tropisms. Correct? And when I talk about the different, I forgot to tell about the nastic movement. So we also have studied about the nastic movement. So nastic movement means what kind of movement? They are the non-directional movement and they are independent movement of the plant. Correct? And we also have studied about the types of tropic movements. That is, firstly we started with the phototropism, hydrotropism, then chemotropism, geotropism and the thigmotropism. I hope you all got a very clear idea about these. What is phototropism? Light and movement. Means the plant is showing the movement towards the light. Plant is showing the movement towards the water. Plant is showing movement towards the chemicals and gravity and the touch. In simple, you can write response to water, response to chemicals, response to gravity and response to touch. You can write like this. They will also give the marks for you. Hope you all understood this concept very clearly. So in the next session, I will teach you that how the plants show their response with respect to the chemicals which are released in their body. We know that the chemicals are the hormones are the one which releases the chemicals in our body. Similarly, in the plant's body also the hormones are released. We call it as phytohormones. We call it as phytohormones. We are going to study about the phytohormones in the next session. Okay, until that's all for this session. I'm signing off. Thank you.